Why was he stuck here in this painful seclusion? He cried and he hollered, laying bare his afflictions and demands. What were the reasons for him being forced to live in that unbearable environment? When our father saw his son making incessant pleas with rebelliousness and bitterness, he was deeply touched and sent faith to him. This sublime virtue exhorted him to trust in the future and to persist in prayer. The wretched man felt somewhat consoled, but in no time at all he went back to his complaining. He wanted to escape from the dung heap, and since his tears increased even more, the Almighty sent hope to him. This emissary wiped his persisting brow and spoke to him about the eternidade of life, trying to dry his desperate tears. For this, he asked for his calmness, resignation, and strength. The poor man appeared to get better, but after a few hours, he went back to lamenting. I can't breathe, he claimed in despair. Sympathetic, the Lord decided that charity should pay him a visit. This new messenger caressed and fed him and spoke kind words to him, as if it were an unselfish mother. Even so, because the miserable man continued his shouting and rebelliousness, the compassionate father sent truth to him. When this bearer of knowledge made itself visible in the form of a great light, the unfortunate man saw himself for what he really was, and he was stricken with dread. Sorry. His body was monstrous. It was a mess of pustulous sores from head to toe, and he realized to his horror that he was in fact the very cause of the unbearable smell in the place where he lived. The poor man trembled and staggered about, and nothing that serene truth had opened the door to his freedom. He was horrified of himself. Without any courage to think about healing himself, rather than looking his visitor straight in the eye in order to learn how to clean and purify himself, he ran off in terror in search of another cave where he could hide the misery that he alone had created. The master paused at length and then said, "This is what happens to most people when faced with reality. They feel they have the right to receive all the Eternal Father's blessings, and they cry out loudly, begging for heaven to help them. When they are helped by faith, hope, or charity, they are at first consoled and then become disconsolate. They believe and then disbelieve, feeling shy, angry, and hesitant. However, when truth shines down on them, revealing the real state they are in, they are usually quick to run off in search of dark hiding places where they can cultivate their illusions." Let's do our initial prayer. Dear Lord, dear Jesus, we thank you for yet another beautiful Sunday, yet another beautiful day that our friends who are here are using to learn more, that our friends who are following us online are using to enlighten themselves. We thank you for every opportunity, big or small, to learn, to reflect on our learnings, to feel the learnings in our hearts, and then making our way into the road of experiencing, of living all those teachings. We thank you for the possibility to choose hundreds of times every single day how to use the free will you gave us with all your love. We ask the mentors of our house to guide this meeting today, to enlighten, inspire our thoughts, so that we will open not just our physical ears, but our spiritual ears, that this content may touch us in our hearts and cause us to reflect, to feel, and to experience what Jesus told us about the truth. So be it. All right. Okay, just a second. I'll stop the music. We don't have a DJ today. Our DJs are traveling today. Sorry guys, I'm a bit of an apple girl. Do you want me to do it? Eu não sei. Porque eu não sei. Ah, achei. Achei. Okay. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. I'm not very tech savvy. So, yes, it is working. Okay. So today's theme, kind of working, is where there is terror, let me sow truth. Does anybody recognize that from somewhere? Out there. Okay. Does anybody recognize that this sentence from somewhere? Where there is error, let me sow truth. Do you know where that sentence comes from? It has been sung before. It has become a song. But originally, it's part of the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. Okay, São Francisco de Assis in English is Saint Francis of Assisi. And I think Assisi is how you say it in Italian. So where there is error, let me sow truth. So this sentence comes from the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. This is one of the most amazing books I've ever read in my whole life. This is, I think, the fifth lecture that I prepare based on this book. It's called A Sublime Oração de Francisco de Assis. So it is kind of a practical guide to understand how to go from the intellectualized knowledge we have of religion, spiritism, or anything, into how I apply that to my life. Okay? So it's one of the most amazing books I've ever read in my life, and it made a huge difference when I was going through very difficult times. And it was actually indicated to me by the author, okay, by Alírio, who is going to be here for Espiritizar workshop, September 21st, 2nd, and 3rd. So he's going to be here, and I had a conversation with him because it's the 3rd year he's coming, and they usually stay at my place. So I was having a conversation with him, and I said, you know, is there any book from Projeto Espiritizar that could help me with this specifically? He said, well, not just that, but a whole lot of other issues, and the book is Sublime Oração de Francisco de Assis. Oops, made a mess. Okay, so first, and then reflecting about this part of the prayer, how do I feel when I face my mistake? Because he says, where there's error, mistake, let me sow truth. Onde houver erro, que eu leve a verdade. Okay? So, how do I feel when I have to face my own mistakes? Do I feel guilty? Do I feel indifferent? Do I always blame someone else because it's never my fault? So, there are several different ways that we can feel when we face our mistakes. So, let's see. There. So, first, I put the whole prayer so that we understand the context, okay? So in this prayer, St. Francis starts by saying, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is offense, let me sow pardon. Where there is discord, let me sow union. Where there is error, let me sow truth. Where there is doubt, let me sow faith. Where there is despair, let me sow hope. Where there is darkness, let me sow light. Where there is sadness, let me sow joy. Do you guys know sow? And because in Portuguese he says que eu leve, but in English it's translated as que eu plante. Que eu plante a verdade. Okay? In Portuguese we say você colhe o que você planta. In English you say you reap what you sow. Okay? Maybe if we go forward and then back again. Yeah, there. Okay. O divine master, grant me that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. Que eu possa não somente ser consolado, mas consolar. To be understood as to understand. Que eu possa não somente ser compreendido, mas compreender. To be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. It's a very deep prayer. And it says a lot. So when he says where there is whatever that is negative and he wants to sow something positive. When he says, where there is error, let me sow truth. Do you think he's talking about others? Wherever Bianca makes a mistake, let me tell her the truth. Exactly. It's about ourselves. So where there's error in myself, let me sow truth. Let me bring the truth to myself, to enlighten myself. Because when I am not enlightened, how can I enlighten someone else? Right? How can I be a light on anybody's path? How can I show anybody the way if I don't know the way myself? We can't give something we don't have. Okay, in the beginning he says, Lord, let me be an instrument of your peace. We can't give a peace that we don't have. Okay, and this speaks a lot about exactly this virtue here, the truth. Because whenever I try to teach something I don't know, show a way that I don't know, am I being truthful? I'm being a hypocrite, right? Okay. So where there is error, let me sow truth. First question we need to reflect. What kind of error? Are we talking here about a typo in an important message that we sent out? Are we talking about going the wrong way, even though we have GPSs. I'm nobody without a GPS. I can't get anywhere without a GPS. But is that kind of errors, that kind of mistake we're talking about? Well, but like taking the wrong way or a typo, they are actions too.
What about the morals or moral values that Christians values that we should?
It's very related. It's different words, but it's very related. So, are we talking about circumstantial or existential error? So, a typo, a wrong turn, these are circumstantial mistakes, right? It's something easily fixable and bang, 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 done, check mark, good. It's not a big deal. But when we talk about morals, then we're talking about existential errors. We're talking about living our lives in a way that material things are more important than our own evolution. Living a life thinking that we have to enjoy every moment to the fullest, putting ourselves in danger sometimes because we don't value the life that we have. So that kind of error, that's what we're talking about, okay? Not the circumstantial, small, day-to-day kind of thing, okay? So I already gave the answer. So we are talking about existential mistakes. We're talking about existential error. We're talking about not on the street, but in life, taking the wrong way. And the GPS that can take us there was around this planet about 2,000 years ago. But sometimes we forget that GPS, right? He is the roadmap to everything that is existential. And we still choose to ignore him many times. And many of us don't even believe he even existed. So, okay. So, first of all, we need to get this to work. That. Okay, the back and forth thing. So, first of all, we're going to understand the destructive, vicious cycle of error. Because error is a vicious cycle. Once you get into it, in order to get out of it, you really need to break a cycle, right? Because once we're doing it, we just keep doing it. So first we're going to understand the vicious cycle of error, and it's destructive because it only takes us down, right? So what's the origin of that vicious cycle? Error is originated in the feeling of doubt when implicitly or explicitly the person doubts their condition of essential being, immortal spirit in evolution, God's child. And here it says implicitly or explicitly. Explicitly, someone who says they are atheists and they don't believe in God at all. That's explicit. Implicitly, someone who says they are religious, but every time they have a trial in their life, they have a challenge in their life, they're like, why did God do that to me? God hates me. What have I done to deserve this? Right? So it's implicit because even though the person says that they believe in God, they don't really feel like God's child, like an immortal spirit in evolution. And here we include a big number of spiritists as well, who in theory know we are immortal spirits, but we don't live like we are. It's knowledge, but it hasn't reached the heart. And they also doubt, for the ones who are implicit, for example, they also doubt the divine laws. They deepen the movement of distancing themselves from their essence, from the divine that is inside us, right? So we distance ourselves from God. you're not a mom yet, but maybe you have some kind of relationship that will help you understand that. But for parents, it's pretty much like when our children are mad at us, or it could be boyfriend, anybody who we know that loves us gets mad at us and they walk away, or sometimes our kids say they hate us. So they can distance themselves from our love, but our love never goes away. So it's the same case. It's the same idea. We can walk away from God. God never walks away from us. His love is always there for us. The moment we decide we've had enough, we've suffered enough, the moment our kids decide they want to have dinner, let's stop this fight because I'm hungry, that's God will always be there with open arms for us. But we many times doubt that. So what's the cause of error? That was the origin. What causes it? The cause for error is illusion. When a person believes they are just the ego, not an existential being, apprentice of life in the process of evolution. So circumstantial errors and successes are part of the daily life of an apprentice of life. The existential error is more profound. So like we had discussed in the beginning. So what this is telling me is that the origin is, it comes from that deep feeling that I don't belong in the universe, that I am not a citizen of the universe. I'm not God's child. I'm here loose. God created me, threw me here, and doesn't care about me anymore. So that's what originates. But why do we do that? Because many times we are under the illusion that we are just the ego. And what does that mean? That means I think, in Portuguese we have two verbs for verb to be, ser and estar, right? So one, it's just a temporary state, and one is what we really are, is not permanent, but the essence is something that is not as changeable as a state. So when I think that I am Renata, that I am a Brazilian Canadian, I am a teacher, I am an admin assistant permanently. So that is an illusion, because in reality, we are immortal spirits. So this here right now is just a state. It's going to pass. I am temporarily Renata. I've been many other names. I've had many other names. I am temporarily an admin assistant. I have been other things, I'm sure. And so on and so forth. So I am Brazilian born with Canadian citizenship for this existence. But I was from many other countries before. So this is an illusion. And many times, mainly for people who don't believe or understand the law of reincarnation, it's very common to have this illusion, because that's what they think it is. There's nothing more than this. But there is, right? So this is why Francis did not say, where there is error, let me sow success. Because all the other parts in the prayer, where there is sadness, let me sow joy. Where there is discord, let me sow union. So what would be the, let's say, opposite of error? What should replace error? In theory, success, right? Right and wrong. I did right, I did wrong, I want to do right. But that's not what he says. He says, where there is error, let me sow truth and not success. So he said truth, because not being able to accept that they are God's child, an apprentice of life, is the biggest mistake that a human being can make. So we can't be successful until we truly understand, feel, and live as immortal spirits, children of God. So knowing the truth, like we saw in the story here that we read in the beginning, the truth will show us who we really are. And then it's up to us to improve ourselves. But we cannot be successful before we know the truth. So if he said, where there's error, let me sow success, he would be skipping the most important step, which is the truth. If I don't know the truth, if I don't know that I am causing the bad smell in my environment, I can't fix it. I can't cleanse myself. Right? So, be nice. There. So let us reflect. If I bring the truth to the existential error, that is, to the illusion that I am my ego, what will my attitude be before circumstantial? What will my attitude before circumstantial errors be? This before here doesn't mean antes, it means perante. Qual vai ser a minha atitude perante os erros circunstanciais? So when I'm faced, like we say in the title, how do I feel when facing my errors? So what will my attitude be when I face my circumstantial error if I bring the truth? Positive, negative?
I didn't care a lot. Because then you're looking at a spectrum of, I don't know, like you said, like 1,000 years. You can always ask yourself, well, if I'm 80 years old, would this little thing really matter to me? If I'm at the end of my life here?
Yeah.
You know, attack on attack.
But when we're talking about, we're talking about, oh, okay, yeah, I got it. I'm sorry.
It's
yes.
like a small mistake in the spectrum of a lifetime or multiple lives, right? That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if that was...
No, yes. No, you're absolutely right. You are in the right path.
Okay.
There's one extra.
Okay.
Oh, yes, but you are in the right path. There's just one next step that's gonna bring it all together. So the word would be acceptance. Not caring, but acceptance. It will be acceptance of my condition of apprentice of life who evolves through errors and successes that I transform into learning experiences. So I take a wrong turn. I make a typo in a very important email and I'm afraid I'm going to be fired. Anything like that. I will accept that this is part of being an apprentice of life. And we learn through our mistakes. We can choose not to learn from our mistakes, be rebellious, kick everything, be grumpy, blame everybody else, blame everything around us. That is a choice that we make many times. Or we can just accept it's part of what makes me evolve. All my mistakes, every time we make a mistake, this is what we call horizontal of life and vertical of life. Every experience I have, I will learn something in the horizontal of life. So in the horizontal of life, we're always evolving. We're always going forward in the horizontal of life. And that comes many times with problem solving. I have a situation, I need to find a solution. So my intelligence is in the horizontal. I can develop my intelligence to a very high level. The vertical is moral. And usually our intelligence will have to be more developed before the moral develops because we need to understand the moral. We need to understand the consequences of our actions. So the intelligence is going to evolve more. So the horizontal of life, so usually we don't evolve like this, like perfectly. Intelligence and moral, everything at the same time. We usually go like this. Because the more we use our intelligence, the more able we are to understand more advanced and deeper concepts and ideas. And then we start understanding how important it is for us to evolve in the moral of life, in the vertical of life, right? So those mistakes, they are in the horizontal of life. If we choose to transform them, no, it doesn't matter if it's an error or a success, because sometimes we can be successful and just think, that's because I'm the best, that's it. No divine interference, no divine help, I have no spiritual mentor helping me. I did everything despite God being a very revengeful father. It's a success, but I learned nothing from it, right? We start evolving in the vertical of life when we transform them into learning experiences. So when I'm successful, it's important to be thankful, to be grateful, to understand that that success was probably a merit that I have because I have already developed intelligence enough to make that good decision and be successful. But we can always choose to think we are just our egos. I'm successful because I'm smart, because I'm the best, because I studied hard while other people are lazy. Have we ever seen this kind of attitude? You don't have to answer to me, just think to yourself. Have we ever had that kind of attitude ourselves? You don't need to answer. Let's just leave it like this. It's a self-reflection moment. And this is how we completely free ourselves from the guilt of making mistakes. Because when I accept my condition of apprentice, do apprentices make mistakes? Who doesn't make a mistake? The master, right? Masters don't make mistakes. Are we masters? So if we feel guilty because we made a mistake, we may not realize it, but we have the complex of masters. We don't accept that we can make mistakes. We want to be perfect right there and then. I don't want to evolve. I want to snap a finger and be perfect, like Jesus. So when we accept that we are apprentices, that we are going to make mistakes. Yes, of course.
But we have to try to act like Jesus, right?
Perfect.
We
yes.
have to try.
Yes.
Really hard.
Yes, we do. But sometimes we misunderstand and we think we are doing that. The moment we realize we aren't, instead of getting mad at ourselves or feeling guilty, I am an apprentice of life.
No, but this is the coming of the arrogance.
Yes, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yes, yes.
You can.
It's the syndrome of the master.
Yes, but you'll never be the master. The master is there.
Oh, we are. Just not right now, not in this planet. We are going to be like Jesus, but we can't want that to be like right now, right? I gave my kids this week when we were doing the gospel at home. My kids were like, but Mom, can't I develop all the virtues like in this life and be done with it? And we had our bottle of water that we always have on the table. And then I showed them those droppers, conta gota. And I told them, I said, every exercise we do for any virtue is one drop of this thing in this big bottle. Do you think you can fill the bottle with all the drops at once? They were like, no, it's going to take a long time, drop by drop. And I said, yes, that's exactly it. One day, and I told them, the filled bottle is Jesus. So one day, our bottle will be filled to the top. We will get there. But we need to have the patience. We need to drop the attitude. Like I tell my kids, drop the attitude. We need to drop the attitude of pseudo-masters, pseudo-mastering that we have. We want to be perfect right now. We want to develop the virtues in this life. I don't want to live in this planet anymore. I want to go on to a better one. So I'm going to be the best person I can be right now. The effort is very necessary. It is a very good intention. We just need to make sure we're going in the right direction. Because sometimes when we are too anxious and too eager to do something, that's when we make mistakes.
How can we not make this?
We can't not make. We are supposed to make the mistakes. We are
There is
apprentices.
any way you can learn like faster? Like, can you read more?
The only way to learn faster, reading will only give you the knowledge here.
But if you have the heart as well.
But how do you get to the heart? How do you get from the reading? How do you get from here to the heart?
When you know you have the heart.
We all have the heart.
No, I know, but
how do we access? We all have the heart. How do we access the heart?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the right question.
Yeah.
How do we access our hearts? And that's a question for you. How do you think it goes from here to here?
Isn't that related to the ego that you were talking about?
Actually, it's related to this.
To drop the attitude.
It's related to this. The only way is through reflection. Because knowing something, from knowing something to feeling something, I need to reflect that. For example, when I make a mistake, and I know I made a mistake, an existential, not a circumstantial. When I know I made an existential, or I've been making an existential mistake, for example, family problems, like I have relationship problems with my parents, for example. How do I improve that? Can I force it? I can't. I know that I have to improve that because that's what every religion says. That's what everybody says. Honor your father and your mother. But how do I get there? How do I get from the I know what I have to do to actually feeling and doing it not by obligation? Because sometimes we do it by obligation, but we hate what we're doing. Yeah. So the only way is to reflect. The only way is to go through the divine laws. There is something that we call as três peneiras. In English would be the three strainers. The major law, what's the major divine law? The law that is above all other divine laws. Love, justice, and charity. So if we reflect, not whatever, but really stop and think and try to feel, we ask ourselves, is what I'm doing or what I want to do loving to myself and others? Is it charitable to myself and others? Is it fair to myself and others? That's the fastest way of going from here to here, reflecting on the divine laws, thinking about the law of mercy. Think about the mercy God has with us, giving us as many chances as we need. But if one person hurts us once, it's done. Só pisa no meu calo uma vez. Have we ever heard? Have we ever said? No need to answer. But that's the thing, reflecting on those things. And that, for example, is an existential mistake. It's an existential error because we don't do that just once. And we go back to the vicious cycle. We believe we are the ego. We believe that with me, Renata, you only make a mistake once. You're not get a chance to make a mistake twice. I don't do this to one person. It's a vicious cycle. I believe that this is how I am, and that's a rule for everybody around. But I am not reflecting how I would feel if I had made an honest mistake, not on purpose, but an honest mistake that ended up hurting someone, and that person would never give me a chance again. How would I feel? So the only way is reflecting on the divine laws and trying to apply them first to ourselves and then to others. Because it's very easy to take ourselves out of the equation because only others matter. I'm already perfect, right? I don't need fixing. Other people can't bother me, can't annoy me, can't make mistakes. I want God to forgive all my mistakes, but I'm not going to forgive anybody else's. right?
Based on experience, is it something that we do every day in our prayers? It's something that we do once a week in your gospel.
It's something we do 100 times every single day during the whole day.
Okay.
Every time our kids annoy us, a co-worker that I feel some kind of, clash, something there, it's not okay. Do I give in? Yeah. Do I give in to that? Or do I go through the 3 strainers? Is the way I'm treating that person loving to myself and to her? Am I missing the opportunity of maybe getting to know an amazing person who might be going through some difficult times in life? We don't know. Is what I'm doing charitable? Would I like to be treated the way I'm treating that person? Other people's shoes, yes.
See if you feel good
Yeah.
if it was happening to you. This is what
Yes.
I try to do.
Yes.
And then it works really
Not superficially, but like
No.
deeply.
Because
Yes.
you don't feel, because when you don't feel, you don't go
Yeah.
higher. You can't get better.
Yeah. But it's very easy to dismiss it. It's very easy to say, tomorrow. I don't feel like doing it today. I don't feel like smiling at someone who is grumpy. That kind of stuff. It's 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 times a day, daily exercise. And many times, and again, it starts like turning a wheel. You turn it once, you turn it twice, you turn it 3 times.
It's like riding the bike.
You have to keep going not to fall.
Ride,
Yes. You keep going not to fall. And that's what it is. And many times you're gonna make a mistake. And that's how it starts. When we start the exercise of truly reflecting on our actions, in the beginning, we're gonna catch one thing here, one thing there. We're gonna reflect on it. We're gonna try and do better the next time because we use it as a learning experience. And as time goes by, we're going to start to catch more new ones. And the ones that are sort of becoming old, we start catching them either while we're doing it, and we can choose to stop. As time goes by, we're going to catch them before we do them, and we can choose to do it anyway or to stop. But as we become a lot more evolved, we won't have to think about them because we won't be making them anymore because we will have developed the virtue that replaces the negative feeling. We will have developed the truth where we had the error.
You're gonna catch love and love and love.
Right? Because what is hate? Yeah, what is hate? Hate is nothing. Hate is the absence of love. Once you put love where that hole was, there's no room for hate anymore. And you don't have to think about that anymore. It's just natural. Like some virtues are absolutely natural to some people. Some people are naturally patient, naturally honest. Was it a gift God gave to them? It's a virtue they have developed through hard work in previous lives. The only gift God gives us is our lives and the divine laws in our conscience. Everything else depends on our work, right? We are not even halfway through this. We're not going to be able to finish today. So what is the movement? Oh, yeah. See. Come on, help me here. It doesn't like this slide. Okay, there. So what's the movement? Existential error leads us to build a persona resulting from the egotistic illusions. In reality, most of the time, we manifest not what we are within, o que nós somos, but our state, o que nós estamos, building consciously or subconsciously a character, which is our ego manifesting itself as if it were the real being. It's the movement of me thinking that I am permanently Renata. I will never be anything other than a teacher or an admin assistant. I am Brazilian, and that's the only possibility for my whole existence, and so on and so forth, like we discussed before. This egotistic manifestation is related to the limiting beliefs and values that we nurture, creating the way we see others, people's lives, and our own. For example, here we're talking about um, prejudice and preconceptions. Every Asian is bad at driving. Every black person is mean or dishonest. Every stay-at-home mom is lazy. Every man is dishonest. These are limiting beliefs. We generalize. We have preconcepts. We try to put everybody in one bucket, right? So these are our limiting beliefs. And the more limiting beliefs we have, the more errors we make, because we judge people by right and wrong according to our limited beliefs, which are not the truth, right? What is the truth?
Not judging one.
That we are all the same, children of God.
He's the only one.
And that's the thing, he doesn't. Jesus didn't judge. God doesn't judge. We judge ourselves and others.
The laws make happen things because there are laws.
Jesus said, and I have it here somewhere in in Matthew 5:45, Mateus 5:45. He says, Jesus says that the Lord makes the sun rise for all, the just and the unjust. So Jesus is proving there that God treats everybody equally. There are no favorites. Nobody is different. The differences among us are because of our individuality and the choices we've made since we were created or since we became human spirits, right? So where we are is just a result of our own actions. Our differences are the result of the choices we've been making since we started incarnating as human beings. Nothing else. But in God's eyes, we are all literally the same. The sun is there for everybody. The rain is there for everybody. The absence of reflections on the absence of reflections on the truth and deepening of the transcendence makes the person believe that they are their name, their social status, their profession, that they are from that city, from that country, like we've discussed before, right? So when we don't reflect on this truth, we actually believe that we are that persona, that temporary incarnation we're having at this moment. So cut a bit. These characteristics are just the temporary circumstantial structure and should not be confused with essential, existential issues, existential matters, right? And very few people are aware of our existential matters, of why we're here, what's the purpose of life, which we're going to discuss in depth in that workshop, September 21, 22, 23. So what's the application? How do we use all that? The error manifests through lies and through hypocrisy. The person lies to themselves and to others in the dimension of thinking, in the dimension of feeling, and in the dimension of existing. So in terms of thinking, our limiting beliefs tell us that the stereotypes, right? So we relate these beliefs that we have in our hearts to the truth, and we believe that they are true. We believe that every stay-at-home mom is lazy. And anybody who has stayed at home knows that it's the hardest work ever. You don't get paid. Nothing you do lasts more than 2 minutes, and so on and so forth. So in terms of the feeling, these beliefs become mystified, egotistic feelings that are transitory. Yeah, we're not going to be able to finish because we had a lot of discussion. I think this is going to be a two-part thing. You guys stay tuned for the next. So I think just a couple minutes just to finish this slide, and we're going to have a part two.
We'll bring you the banner inside.
Okay, perfect. So in terms of feelings, so these beliefs become mystified, and we believe that these transitory things are reality. However, we are immortal spirits, right? We adopt what is temporary as permanent. We believe that this temporary incarnation is something permanent. And that's what we feel. And that's what leads us to making mistakes. In terms of existing, when we believe and when we feel that our limiting beliefs are true and permanent, we live those lies, right? We believe that that persona, that character that we are right now is real, but it's not real. It's temporary, it's transitory. What's real is our essential beings. It's the virtues we develop. This weekend, I was watching with my kids the movie Hidden Figures. Has anybody seen it? Oh my gosh, I recommend it. It's about amazingly smart Black women in the time of the space race.
Oh, I saw this one.
Yeah, in the times of the space race. And they were in the basements of NASA doing all the calculations, right? And that is an awesome example of everything we're seeing here. The stereotype, the limiting beliefs that a certain race is inferior. And they believed that lie, right? And they treated them like they were inferior until someone broke the cycle, right?
Jesus broke the cycle.
Oh gosh, he broke so many cycles. Okay, so unfortunately, we will have to stop here. What we're going to discuss the next time is how to break that cycle, how to break the vicious cycle and to build the constructive, virtuous. We always talk about vicious cycle. There is also a virtuous cycle that we need to be aware of, which is the healthy cycle, the 1,000 times a day exercise. So that's what we're going to discuss next time. So how to break the cycle of error and replace it with the virtuous cycle of the truth. Okay? We're ready for you guys.
Okay, we have a few minutes. We're finishing there.
Okay.
Let me prepare the water.
All right. Well, we can take this time for comments, questions. Is everything making sense?
Yeah, the movie really.
It is, and it's the perfect example of everything we discussed here, of how we can actually believe those preconcepts, those misconceptions, feel like that, and live that until we put ourselves in their places. When like every time she has to take 40 minutes to go to the washroom and come back, and then he yells at her and he's like, "Where have you been? What were you doing?" She's like, she really lets it down and yells and explains the situation. Nobody had tried to put themselves in her place, and nobody had asked themselves, is the way I'm treating this lady loving with me and with her, charitable with me, with her, fair with me and with her? So how can we say we are Christians and we follow Jesus and we believe Jesus when Jesus gave us the golden rule? Treat others the way you would like to be treated. Are we really following? So that's where reflection comes in, right, Marcia? That's why reflection is important, because sometimes we create misconceptions We create beliefs that what we're doing is right. It is right according to the Bible, but we need to reflect and ask ourselves, is it right? Is it what Jesus really meant? Am I trying to understand his words, or am I just doing what feels easy and right for me right now? So the only way to get from knowing, we can read a million books and just stay in here. But the only way to bring what's in here to here is to reflect and to actually try and think how to bring it to our lives. Because we can also reflect, but it's still all theory. But we need to try and think, how are we going to bring it to our lives? We make an existential mistake of mistreating someone, for example. Let's go back to the movie. So we reflect, yeah, it's wrong. Do we stop in the, yeah, it's wrong? Or do we try to bring it to our hearts and think, but what can I change to break that cycle? What can I do?
Change the attitude, and then you see that sometimes the other people change, and then you see that you have the answer.
Yeah, a grumpy person at work, sometimes, if we smile at them, they will smile back. Sometimes they won't, and that's okay, because we cannot evolve on anybody else's behalf. We cannot do it for them. We cannot force them to do it. Only ourselves. We can and should improve ourselves and be the example. We can't demand that others follow our example, because there's that thing too, right? I'm an example. Why isn't everybody doing the same if I'm giving the example? We can't demand. Everybody will realize in their own time. In our own time, didn't we realize our mothers were right about a whole lot of things we would never want to admit? But it takes our own time. Sometimes it takes our own experience. Sometimes it takes a painful experience for us to click and think, hey, you know what? That person is actually right. My mom was right. According to my mother, there's no better sentence in the world than, Mom, you were right. So, yes, being someone else's example is not to make us popular or likable or pseudo masters. Everybody follows my lead. It's not Simon Says. It's for ourselves. Nobody will benefit more than ourselves. It spreads to everybody who's around around us, right? It's a wave of energy, peace of mind. All of this emanates from us. And then it affects everybody who is around us. Good or bad energy affects everybody who is around us somehow, right? And the better we are for ourselves, the better we're going to be for everybody else. And how people react to that, it's always their choice. And if God gave everybody free will, who are we to question that? Who are we to want to force someone to do or feel something, right? All right. That is colorful. Okay.
Okay, good job, good job. So as you probably know, what is our virtue of the month?
Authenticity. Yeah, we didn't get there. It's in the second podcast. Okay.
Okay, so let me turn this thing off.
Oh, there.
And today we did a little bit different job, right, Natalia and Gabriel? How did you like it?
It was hard.
It was hard.
It was hard.
So we did a reflexive meeting today. So they reflect about our beautiful teaching of Jesus. Can you read for us? What is the Jesus teaching about authenticity?
Be truthful.
Oh, Jesus. What does it say?
Oh, let your yes be a yes, and let your no be a no.
And what does that mean?
You forgot. I didn't see it yet.
I have a
Yeah, you have a little
cheat
guy there
sheet
that you
there.
wrote down.
Okay,
And Clara, you can jump in anytime.
Be truthful, follow Jesus, don't lie, do the right thing, good choices, don't follow evil, help mom and dad, feeling about good, doing good looking, feeling of apprenticeship, good choices make the world a better place, helping your siblings, doing your share, helping the environment, love one another, listen clear conscience.
That was Guilherme's idea, pretty sure. Okay, guys, thank you very much. It was a wonderful.
I love the talk about helping hands.
I have to look on that one.
Okay, Renata,
We all
we should do the two of us, Guilherme will help you.
Okay, we just need to do our final prayer.
Okay. Deve ser desliga a luz ali, tá bom?
Okay, so I invite everybody to close their eyes. Dear Lord, dear Father, and Jesus, our Master, our guide, the example that we have to guide our lives. We once again thank you for all the opportunities of learning, feeling, and living all the examples, all the teachings you left us. Dear Master, we ask for your help. Please enlighten us. Please give us strength to reflect on our actions, small or big, any actions that we take that impact our lives and someone else's life, the way we treat our neighbors, the way we feel about those around us. Are we trying to love? Are we trying to forgive? Are we working towards our inner peace? And are we following the divine laws? We ask the mentors of our home here at FSS to keep helping us, working with us. And we thank them for all the work that has already been done, that is being done right now, and that will be done in the future. We ask for strength and enlightening for ourselves here today, for anybody who is watching or will watch in the future, for our city, for this country who has welcomed us, for our home country, Brazil, who is in so much need of your love and of your guidance. May we all have an excellent week full of reflections, trying to break our vicious cycles and start virtuous cycles instead. So be it.